The key analyses that we've undertaken really kind of break down into things that happen on the landscape versus things that happen within the lake itself. So things that might reflect what's happening on the landscape include palynology, that's looking at pollen grains produced by vegetation. So if you have a big storm or a big land clearance event, you'll see a signal in the pollen within your sediment core. Other things might reflect, say you have a big storm, you'll get a lot of external mud coming in from the landscape, and that will be deposited within your lake. And then proxies that reflect, indicators that reflect what happens within the lake include things like Midge Larvae, which are little insects that have, if you've ever seen a red worm in lake sediment, that's a type of midge called Chironomidae. And it will live in the lake mud and produce winged adults. But the thing that preserves in the lake mud gives us a really good indication of things like water quality or past temperatures. Right, so pollen will reflect the vegetation on the landscape, which will partly relate to climate, but it'll also depend on what humans are doing on the landscape. Whereas midges don't really care about that kind of stuff. They're in the lake, and insofar as the landscape impact isn't directly impacting the lake, they'll kind of continue doing their thing, responding to temperature. In comparison to something like pollen, trees live for kind of years to decades to centuries. These things can have multiple generations within one single year, so it can have a much faster response to any kind of disturbance. If you're really looking for impacts of temperature change or climate change, this would be the tool, right? So you're looking for the tool to do the job. So you can detect midge presence or absence because the head capsules actually preserve really nicely in the lake mud. So we can collect head capsules that are tens of thousands of years old, and each type, each species, has teeth. Just like we have teeth, you can count the number of teeth, you can look at the shape of the teeth, and use those to determine what species you're working with. They also have these beautiful things called ventramental plates. They're kind of like little fan-shaped things, and they use those to shoot out silk into the water column and collect things that fall out and eat it. So the shape and the size of those are actually very diagnostic for the different species types. So yeah, they're quite fun to look at under the microscope. Do you want to see some full-on nerd? This is drawn by Peter Cranston, who is a specialist that I learned from. He was based at University of California at Davis. So he did a bunch of hand drawings for the taxonomy. And this is Polypedalum watsoni. So I would describe this as having 2 medial teeth, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lateral teeth. The last lateral tooth and the third to last are reduced in size. So you can count the number of teeth that it has, the shape, and then it's got these big, beautiful fan-shaped ventramental plates that, again, are used to spin silk. So that tells us very much that this is Polypedalum watsoni. And that's the motto of my alma mater, Sapere Aude, dare to be wise.
You're such a sweetie.
Nerdy. I don't think I chose Midge Larvae. I think Midge Larvae chose me.